It was funny because when we were talking on the phone earlier and you're like, someone should do a fuck you list. And I'm like, oh, just wait, Jesse.
We are here after I have watched the Life Aquatic. $4 down the drain to watch this. I can't imagine myself ever rewatching this movie. I can't imagine myself ever rewatching this movie.
I liked it more than I remember watching it the first time. So
Wow.
Let's fucking go.
What is happening, y'all? We are back. We are live. We are trying the video aspect of the podcast because, guys, we're trying to keep with the fucking times. I am here with my longtime amigo, former roommate, friend I met from freshman year of college, almost 20 years. Pretty crazy. My good friend, Adam. Adam, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, Jesse. Thank you for having me.
Wow, using the government. Yeah, people are going to be like, who the fuck is Jesse? Yeah, crazy out here, dude. Adam knew me when I was just simple Jesse, just like Simple Jack before me, But yeah, fun fact, guys, Adam and I, like I said, we've known each other since 2007. So we're going, it's crazy, almost 20 years now. It's getting closer to that. Yeah.
In serious.
Serious. We used to live together for a couple years as well. We've recently reunited. There was never any weird stuff. It was just one of those things where life happened, and now we're back at it. And Adam's actually been helping me out with this podcast, guys, which I believe I haven't even said the name. You haven't seen what? If you're new to the podcast, basically I bring on a guest we're doing every 2 weeks, but at some point hopefully we get down to every week. They give me a list of 10 movies. I pick one of the movies that I've never seen. They react how they react. Usually it's not very pleasant for me, and telling me how the hell have I not seen said movie. I explain why I never watched the movie. They explain why they feel like everyone should have seen the movie. We take a quick break. I watch the movie. We come back and discuss. So today we are having my friend Adam on, who, I'm going to be honest, guys, no offense to any of my other guests that I've talked to or that I'm having on the podcast soon, or who I've asked already who haven't been on yet. Adam's probably the most excited I've been for anyone's list, just because Adam and I went to film school together. Mm-hmm. On top of that, we went and did a lot of short film projects when we were in school together. So we used to work a lot together. We used to screenwrite together. We did a lot of creative projects together pretty much until the time that I went into music, So I'm excited to see, since Adam and I haven't really compared movies in probably over 10 years plus.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like, what is on this list? Who is Adam now? I'm not even fully sure. I know he's engaged now. Congrats, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, shout out Melissa. Oh, he got the ring on it. Hit me with the Beyonce. Okay, I see you. So yeah, I'm excited to see what's on Adam's list, because to be honest, I have no idea. I'm gonna write down real quick.
You have a guess though, right?
I have a guess. I have two guesses of themes that I'm gonna write on here. I hope they're not either of these, but I'm gonna write them down because I think it'll be funny. All right, I wrote down my two guesses for your theme of your list. So Adam, what is the theme of your list? Let's get in this. Let's get people excited. We were just bullshitting for a good 5 minutes, or 3 minutes and 40 seconds, excuse me. So what is the theme? Do you have a theme for this list?
Oh, I do have a theme. I think it will be revealed, though, as we go through this. I think you'll be able to pick up on it pretty early on, I think.
Oh, God. This could be bad. I feel like this is going to be bad. Yeah, okay.
Movie number 1 is a film called Bottle Rocket. Movie number 2, Rushmore. Movie number 3 is a film called The Royal Tenenbaums.
You son of a bitch.
Movie number 4 is The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, followed by The Darjeeling Limited, followed by Fantastic Mr. Fox, then The Moonrise Kingdom, The Grand Budapest Hotel, The French Dispatch, and lastly, Asteroid City is the movie.
So, guys, the one I thought that Adam's going to do is his theme, and guys, look at the bottom. Wes Anderson films was my number one.
And I revealed, too, Jesse knew.
I knew it was good. I was like Wes Anderson films, and I put back up pretentious film school films, which, to be honest, They both fit there.
Overlap. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny because when we were talking on the phone earlier, and you're like, someone should do a fuck you list, and I'm like, oh, just wait, Jesse.
Yeah, I knew it, bro. I literally knew that this was happening. I knew this day was gonna come. I was hoping we wouldn't get here this early. All right, so I've only seen Rushmore.
Okay.
I've only seen Rushmore. I knew this fucker was gonna choose Wes Anderson.
Wait, you've only seen one, actually? I mean, I'm not surprised that you didn't go deep into Wes Anderson, but I thought with all of the riffing, we should probably give a little bit of background context too, right? A little lore building. This was something that we kind of always joked about at DePaul when we were in film school. I don't even remember like the full context. I just remember it came with like a gesture and an inflection. It was like, oh, you haven't seen Wes Anderson? Yeah, Wes Anderson film. And I think that was just because we had that perception, right? That they were like more pretentious type of films.
Big pretentious energy. Big pretentious energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I fucking knew it, bro. I knew you were gonna do this. I don't know why. I just knew. It hit me one day. I'm like, this guy's about to get me. Yeah, I've only seen Rushmore. I don't remember much of it. I could pick a random one. If there's one you think in particular, that would be a good film to choose. I've heard great things about Life Aquatic and Royal Tenenbaums. There's some other ones I've heard stuff about too. I haven't gotten a chance to watch any of them.
Yeah.
So
we actually did recently rewatch a few of these too because I wanted to get kind of brushed up on it as I'm like, all right, if I'm making this list, I should kind of recall. Maybe I should save a little bit of my thoughts till the afterwards, like just my whole take on Wes Anderson in general as a filmmaker. Yeah. So I think of the list, could either be interesting to do Bottle Rocket just because that's his first film. So it could be how did he start out? When did he figure out his style and all of that? The Royal Tenenbaums as well, I think has kind of had a more widespread appeal. And then same with Life Aquatic. I feel like those are the two that I hear kind of the most about.
Same.
And then the other one just because it was the first one. Maybe one of those three. But I was even thinking, depending on how this goes, maybe this is a spin-off of Jesse on Wessie or Jess on Wes.
Oh my God. A whole separate just Wes Anderson podcast.
Yes.
How many podcasts can we have? Find out next time on Schway Nostalgia Z. I was going to say between Royal Tenenbaums and Life Aquatic, I don't know. Is there one that needs to be watched before the other one? Or does it not really matter? Because I think I would choose Life Aquatic just because my main man, to me, one of the most underrated actors of our lifetimes, Willem Dafoe, is in that film. And I'd love a good Willem Dafoe movie. So why don't we do Life Aquatic then, and we can save the other ones,
Yeah, that's good, because I think that Royal Tenenbaums is probably the most accessible. It's still quirky. All the other movies, I guess we'll just wait.
Find out.
We'll find out. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the main reason I never watched this movie is I saw Rushmore, wasn't a big fan. At all.
That's interesting. What were your thoughts on Rushmore?
It's been a while, to be honest, since I just remember watching it and it just being very awkward and because I was early Jason Schwartzman, right?
Yeah.
So, very awkward, just weird energy, just very quirky, but just some of those movies where it gets so awkward it feels like someone's scratching a chalkboard. It had moments like that, and I was just like, I finished it. I don't really remember much. I did finish Rushmore, but I just remember watching it and being like, if I never saw this again, I think I'd be okay. I just remember having that feeling. And then Life Aquatic in particular, that and Royal Tenenbaums I heard about the most. Life Aquatic in particular is one of those things where so many people it just was such like a cult classic. A lot of times when people insist on stuff too much, is going to be a theme in this podcast. It just makes me not want to watch it. And that happens a lot. The cast looks great. Just very quirky. One of those things, if someone had asked me to watch it, I wouldn't be opposed, but it's just not something I'd really watch on my own. That's like a theme with a lot of these movies where it's like, if someone put it on, I wouldn't be mad, but would never really go out of my way to watch it because I just don't have enough interest. It's hard enough for me to keep up with the new Star Wars or Marvel shows or whatever that is, blah, blah, blah. Or, for people who don't know, I have to watch professional wrestling for work. Out of context, that's a wild statement, but I have to watch professional wrestling for work, and that's a lot of time too. So by the time I'm done with all that, sometimes I just want to put something on that I'm like, I don't really have to think too much. You know what I mean? Like I kind of just veg out and not have to read subtitles or not have to really pay attention to dialogue like that. You know, Law and Order I can throw on and I know I can zone out, come back in. It's like, oh, they caught the guy. What a surprise. You know, oh, he's guilty. What a surprise. You know, he's either guilty or not. You know, there's no in between. That's pretty much the main reason. The reason I picked it out of the movies, like you said, is because of my main man, Willem. You know, I'm a big fan of Willem. Ever since I saw Willem as the Green Goblin in Spider-Man, I've been a fan. And then he was great in Boondock Saints. There's some other movies by him I would like to check out soon. You know, I'm not going to name them because I haven't seen them. And I'd hate to give away free potential content. So, besides being a Wes Anderson film, is this a movie you actually enjoy, Adam? Is that something that you would watch on your own? Or is this more of just like, let me fuck with them real quick?
Are you talking about this movie in particular, or like Wes Anderson films in general?
Well, obviously you did that to fuck with me, but, you know,
Yeah.
Life Aquatic, is that like something that you enjoy watching? Is it something you and Melissa would watch? And Melissa's his fiance, for those keeping track. Is this something you guys would be interested in, or is this just part of the whole theme of let's fuck with Jesse real quick?
Yeah, I think it's mostly the let's fuck with Jesse. It was funny though, because going back to revisiting the films, and like I said, I've made Melissa watch them with me, and she was just and we didn't actually watch Life Aquatic, so it's not spoiler for that movie, but just kind of Wes Anderson's vibe in general. She was not feeling it. She was like, "Why are you making me watch these movies?"
Yeah, right. I'm
Was
regretting.
Yeah.
Regretting accepting this ring already. It's been a week, Adam. It's only been a week of us being engaged, and you're putting me through this shit. Like,
Yeah. Actually, I think I made her start watching that before the proposal. So it's amazing that
oh
she
wow,
did
and she
say
still
yes.
said yes. That's
She
crazy.
still said yes. I must
Yeah,
have some
wow.
other redeeming qualities outside
Yeah.
of, Wes Anderson movies.
You know, I could make some jokes, but we're gonna keep it PG.
I think my general take on Wes Anderson, so I used to just have like, oh, he's just really pretentious or whatever.
Right.
Like I just thought like it's got quirky oddball humor and some kind of long drawn out scenes or like pacing issues just to make it feel more dramatic or less accessible. There's a perception where a movie is less accessible, then you can feel more elite about it. The way that I've kind of warmed up to him a little bit more, maybe this is just my age, where I just feel like, maybe this is just his style. He's just maybe a quirky guy, and he just wants to create quirky movies. From the movies that we watched, the way that I kind of view them is, my opinion, they were kind of imperfect films that had like little gold nuggets or whatever in them. There were scenes that I enjoyed, some funny scenes or whatever, scenes I enjoyed, but I did feel that some of his movies had some pacing issues, and maybe I'm just not sophisticated enough for Wes Anderson, so maybe more elite people can deal with that pacing structure. But yeah, I just thought, not like I'm I need Marvel explosions every 2 minutes, but it just, I like drama, I like character development, but yeah, some of the movies I felt the pacing could have been improved upon overall.
Yeah, I feel that. I kind of remember, and again, I haven't seen Rushmore in probably 15 years at least. I just remember Rushmore just getting kind of bored, and then some of the stuff just didn't really, it was just one of those things where it just didn't really make sense to me. So basically, it sounds like, in your older age, you've gotten more pretentious, which I didn't think was possible.
No, I think I don't feel maybe the need to like hate on stuff as much anymore, where before that was part of it, was you talk about like movies you like and then movies you fucking hate, and that's like how I can give my my aesthetic.
I think all this came about is probably one of our film classes when someone asked us, oh, who do you watch, or like whose style directorial type stuff do you like? And that's probably what happened. And someone was just like, oh, Wes Anderson. And we were just like, Wes Anderson. Probably, knowing it's probably me just being a jackass. Half of my jokes just come from me just like fucking around.
Yeah, so. I'm trying to remember how that did came about. All I remember was we would make that joke, oh, do you like Wes Anderson film? And yeah, one thing too that I feel might have happened is when you tell people that you're a film major, they probably also ask you, well, what kind of movies you like,
who do you watch?
Or what director, what's your favorite director? So maybe that was also the way that we joked about it, was like, oh, I like Wes Anderson, you know.
All right.
But I can't, honestly, I can't remember the full history. I just remember that we joked about it.
Yeah, from what I remember with Rushmore and from other clips I've seen, it seems like his stuff is more potential to be drawn out, very awkward type humor, as well as very interesting set and clothing design type stuff.
Yeah.
That always seemed like his kind of signature was having very unique clothes, colors, like
wide angles, a lot of wide angles.
Yeah. So, and just kind of being his own, unique, quirky self. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed. That's one of the things about this podcast I like, is it's giving me an opportunity to expand my horizons, and try to be a little bit, out of my comfort zone. How many times can I watch Commando? The answer is a lot. I could watch Commando a lot of times. It's a classic film. It's a film.
We watched it a lot just in college, I remember.
Right, yeah. I probably overdue. I don't think I've watched it probably in 3 years at least. Maybe more. Yeah, I did watch a lot. I mean, I don't know, it's funny. I had it on DVD. I bought it on Blu-ray, and then I think my dad lost my copy on Blu-ray and randomly just bought me another copy on Blu-ray, and I'm just like, all right, I didn't even know, but sure, whatever. Trying to think, is that going to be it on our presentation of Life Aquatic? Is there any specific stuff about this movie you liked about any of the other ones, or should we just perhaps watch the film,
Yeah, I guess I don't want to like spoilery or set your perception of the film before you see it.
Yeah.
But I think there's one scene. We'll talk on this later maybe, but I think that there's one scene that could be one of the reasons why people like the movie a lot. And yeah, and I don't know if it's earned or not. I don't know. I don't want to get again. And this has been probably like 10, 15 years since I've seen the movie too. So I'm wondering if how I'm going to feel about the pacing and all of that stuff. If it'll be any different.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed, I don't know, the fact that Bill Murray in it's never a bad sign. And like I said, Willem Dafoe, a lot of other names in there too. He never has bad casts. That's one thing about Wes Anderson. He has a pretty solid following when it comes to actors who want to be in his films, even for bit parts.
Yeah.
So if that's it so far, I mean, I think we could wrap up this first part and we can get to watching the film, guys. So
yeah,
you think you're good?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good. All right, guys. So if you want to watch along, make sure to find a copy of Life Aquatic. On the second half of the pod, I'll tell you where I watched the movie because I haven't looked it up yet. We'll look it up. We'll see where to find it. I'll say it in the pod, but if you would like to enjoy the second half of the pod spoiler-free, make sure to go check that out. And if you haven't, join our brand new Instagram page, Schway Nostalgia Pod, which is out there too. If you guys would like, check us out. And yeah, dude, looking forward to talk to you after I watch this film. Excited for that. So appreciate you guys, and we'll see you for the second half. Hey guys, what up? Shway here. Thank you again for listening to my brand new podcast. You haven't seen what? I know, guys. It's hard for me to force that type of enthusiasm, but I'm so grateful for you listening to the podcast. If you would like to know how to support me, which I know you're all dying to know how you can support me, it's really easy, guys. Follow Shway Nostalgia on all social media platforms. Make sure to check out Shway Podcast Network on Instagram. And check out ShwayNostalgia.com. Go to ShwayNostalgia.com. Check out some of our sweet branded merch. We got t-shirts. We got scented candles. Who else has scented candles? We got scented candles. We also got all sorts of cool stuff, guys. Vintage collectibles, toys, all that. Make sure to check out ShwayNostalgia.com. Also, if you'd like to see even more of me, guys, follow us on YouTube, which you're already doing since you're watching right here, and follow me on Whatnot at Schway Nostalgia. I stream weekly all the time, selling all sorts of cool stuff like wrestling cards, figures, all sorts of stuff, guys. Make sure to follow us, cop a t-shirt, like, share, and subscribe, guys. It's so easy. Just right down there. You're already here. Just go like, share, and subscribe, guys. It's so easy, and it helps us out tremendously. Thanks again for checking out the pod, and I look forward to seeing y'all soon. We are here after I have watched The Life Aquatic by Wes fucking Anderson, which, by the way, Adam, you can go fuck yourself for picking that. On top of that, it was bad enough I had to watch Life Aquatic, but I had to pay to watch Life Aquatic because I couldn't find it on streaming. So terrible, and I don't have freaking mirror play on my TV, which is actually, I realized my non-OLED TV is broken now that I have in my room that I watch stuff on, so I'm gonna have to wait for Black Friday to get a new TV. But yeah, $4 down the drain to watch this film. You guys remember, this is not a movie.
It was a film.
It's a film. Yeah, so The Life Aquatic is about Bill Murray's character, Steve Zissou, however you want to pronounce it. And he leads his, what should I call it, ragtime band, renegade band of people on expeditions where he shoots documentary films. They present him almost as a character kind of past his prime, it seems like. Mm-hmm. You know, a little past his prime. He's showing off his new documentary film as the film starts off at a very bourgeois film festival, very bougie, as they said, which is kind of what I was expecting when I started this film, was a lot of bougie. His crewmate slash best friend, it seems like, I forgot the dude's name, but was killed by what they call it, a jaguar shark, and the whole movie, you know, is they set up a new expedition, a new episode of his documentary series where they're going after the jaguar shark that killed his friend. They do a lot at the beginning of the film and in general to make Bill Murray a very unlikable guy. He comes in, he says something that sounds like a joke. The people laugh. He looks at the interpreter and he's like, why are they laughing at me? Because to me, I thought it was initially a joke too, but to him, it was not a joke. Hopefully you didn't hear that motorcycle go past me. And then, oh, you did? Okay, there's a little cut for you guys. And then he comes out, he sees his wife's ex-husband, played by Jeff Goldblum, which, you know, never mad to see a Jeff Goldblum appearance. You know, I'm a fan of Jeff. I can't really think of many projects I've seen him in where I haven't been like, he added to it, you know? There's not many movies or TV shows I could think of where I'm like, I wish Jeff Goldblum wasn't in that, you know, off the top of my head. You meet this character, they walk off, and then Bill Murray makes a comment to his wife being like, basically insinuating that Jeff Goldblum's gay. And that's kind of like a theme throughout the movie of just like kind of going in on the ex-husband slash, you know, Bill Murray always wanting to be right, to the point where Bill Murray's character is with his wife and his mistress at the same time, and this is within the first 10 minutes of the movie. So you already are like, Bill Murray's kind of a past his prime, you know, scumbag who you know, is used to getting his way and just kind of wants stuff done his way. And then, you know, randomly meets Owen Wilson, who is presented as potentially being his son, even though, you know, they randomly throw in later in the film that you know, Bill Murray can't have kids because he supposedly shoots blanks, his wife said. Whether or not that's true or not, I would assume it is, because why else would they bring it up? And, you know, so a lot of the movie is him trying to get revenge for his former friend while also building this relationship with the guy who most likely isn't his son, but it seems like he really wants to be his son because he's kind of, it seems like, looking for almost a purpose. You know, he's been doing this for a while. They've established that people grew up watching him. People used to idolize him. You know, he had a following. There's people of interest like him. He's definitely has the quote-unquote clout, but he just sucks as a character. Like, I find in this movie, like, a lot of the characters are just, I found, not very relatable until the end with Bill Murray. Bill Murray, to me, like, not relatable at all until the very, very end. He says one thing that all of a sudden, you know, it's interesting. Like, I wonder if literally, it almost made me feel like the whole movie was a setup for this one line. It's the end of the movie. Towards the end, all these guys are in his little submarine looking for the jaguar shark that they think they finally found. And then they see the shark, and the whole movie, you know, Bill Murray's like, yeah, I want to kill the shark. I want to kill the shark. They get to the shark. He claims they have no bombs left to kill the shark, which, to be honest, I don't know how they're going to bomb a shark out of the submarine they had, which is blatantly more of a, commercial non-violent submarine. And he looks at the jaguar shark, and to me it was probably the best line of the movie, where he's literally just like, I wonder if he remembers me, looking at the shark. Because that's all Bill Murray seems to really want. He said he didn't want to be a father to Owen Wilson at one point, but him saying, I wonder if you'll remember, it's one of those things where it's blatant parent. I've done all this stuff in my life, but does any of it even matter? Mm-hmm. That's kind of the vibe I got from that line. And then all the characters kind of just start hugging him. And in the credits, I don't know if sometimes the credits, it's hard to tell if it's part of the story or not part of the story. If it's just kind of like, sometimes they do stuff in credits where it doesn't really add to the story. Like at the end of this, like all the crew who remained alive, R.I.P. Owen Wilson's character, who just very arbitrarily died, didn't really seem to serve a purpose, I guess, besides making Bill Murray reflect on his life a little bit more. But Bill Murray's wife, who seemed to like hate him the entire movie, at the end in the credits seemed super into him at the end and super happy and super different. Aesthetically, a lot of great camera shots, a lot of interesting transitions. The transitions are, in the editing process, are definitely accented by the different types of set design they have. So, the way they have one of the sets for the boat where it's almost like the boat's cut in half and they can see the characters going through different rooms within the ship and all stuff like that, I thought was cool. The outfits are a bit over the top, but very interesting. Yeah, I found a lot of the characters, like I said, not realistic very throughout the board. Bill Murray at the end, that one part, about remembering him, like I felt that, but besides that, most of the characters just don't seem like people you would meet that often. Having said that, in the Avengers, I'm not going to meet, Captain America or whatever, but I'm just saying, for a more like realistic movie, it just seemed like there wasn't a lot of realistic characters, a lot of quirky type stuff. Besides Bill Murray saying that, the saddest part of the movie for me is when there's a section in the movie where their boat, because Bill Murray's can never be wrong, they end up getting hijacked by pirates. The pirates leave a dog on their ship. And to me, the saddest part of the whole movie, besides that Bill Murray line at the end, is when they go to rescue their crewmate, or as I believe it was the bank stooge or something that he referred to him as. They go to rescue the person from the bank who's basically in charge of their money, so that, they don't leave him behind, and inadvertently rescue Jeff Goldblum too. But they left the dog, whose name is Cody, on the island after he had joined him, and he's like, goodbye, Cody. And to me, that was one of the saddest moments in the movie. I'm like, geez, bro, go get Cody. Fuck, bro. Like, what did Cody do to you? Another thing super random, there was one character, I don't even know who it was, but she was just topless in 3 or 4 different scenes for no reason. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not mad to look, but it's just from like a why is this here standpoint, it just didn't really make any sense for why that was there. Maybe you have some sort of analysis of this. I'm not mad. I'm just confused as to why. There was also a character named Pele, who's Portuguese. The only talking parts he seemed to really had. He had a couple regular talking parts, not much, but most of the movie is just him doing Portuguese covers of David Bowie. Which is just, again, like, it kind of feels like at certain times there's just Wes Anderson putting together the movie on set with a cigarette in his mouth. Because I remember he used to have an American Express ad back in the day that he directed about his movies. I just imagine him there smoking a cigarette just being like, what's the most random shit that we can fucking do? Because none of this, besides, I don't know, it didn't seem like much of it even took place. The only other reference of Portugal was Jeff Goldblum's character in the beginning being like, oh, look, I won a medal from the Portuguese government or their royalty or whatever. But besides that, there's no reference of Portugal at all. And then there's just this guy who's randomly on the boat who transitions different parts of the movie by literally just doing covers of David Bowie songs in Portuguese, which I guess is cool. Didn't really do much for me. It just seemed really, really random. And not enough Willem Dafoe. When Willem was in it, he's kind of a lame character. I'd hate to say, I can't think of any Willem Dafoe movies I don't like, but this might be the first one. I have some more notes, but like, I gotta be honest, I can't imagine myself ever rewatching this movie. Like, I can't imagine myself ever rewatching this movie unless maybe one day I get booed up or something, and that would be the ultimate irony is I finally find a woman I want to marry and she's like, I love Wes Anderson films, and I'm like, God, I'm checking out. This world was not meant for me. I'm checking out, because like, holy shit, bro. Like, I was watching it, I'm not gonna lie, at the beginning, and the unhappy camper, just, like, I don't want to be here, and I definitely tried to give it a fair shot. The way the dialogue is, the way it's so unrealistic that it just it was hard for me to relate. And the story, sorry, wow, should have turned that off. Sorry guys, amateur hour over here. Trying to make sure my streams don't die on Whatnot. Follow me on Whatnot, guys. Message. Go ahead, Adam. I'm talking a lot here.
No, I was just making a stupid joke that wouldn't have flown in a Wes Anderson film.
Oh, yeah, right. Are you sure? I don't know. It wouldn't have been... There'd been some random guy who has no speaking parts randomly playing a xylophone of that thing. It wouldn't be actually off my phone. It'd just be like he'd have some random person just doing it himself for some reason. It was just a very, very non-diverse cast. And the diverse members of the cast just don't speak at all. Very minimal at all.
Or at least not English. Right.
I mean, I guess if you count the guy singing as like speaking parts, I kind of do, but he had very minimal actual speaking parts. Yeah. I will say it was pretty funny how they did the shooting scenes when they had violence. They literally made no sense at all. The way they were shooting, it almost seemed like he was just doing it as a joke because the guy's just like, like it doesn't look like any sort of actual action type movie you've ever seen. The action seemed kind of like, hey, we have to do it, but it almost seemed like his satire of what action should be. That's how it kind of came off to me, as kind of like, oh, we're doing an action scene. Ho-ho. Let me make my little spin. I had someone I was talking to recently, and they were saying they didn't like Seinfeld because of the fact that there was no good people in Seinfeld. And, to me, not good people make more interesting characters. But, in this story, I'm not saying I needed good people, but none of these people really seemed that good. But none of them were that interesting to me. There was no character where I'm like, that's the one. Even Bill Murray got a little tedious to deal with at times. Owen Wilson was kind of a little bland. Just very, and that's kind of his character. I think blatantly apparent he's not actually Bill Murray's son. I know he didn't raise him. Their aura, their energy is just so vastly different. They couldn't be more different type people. I'm trying to think if I have anything else. Another random line I thought was funny is just, there's a reporter on the boat who's pregnant who's reporting on Bill Murray. And Bill Murray is like, oh, I called dibs on her or something, which, wild. Already married, calling dibs on a pregnant lady, wild. But then Owen Wilson and Hearst kind of start seeing each other or whatever. I just remember him as Hansel in Zoolander, where he's just very like positive energy, just like very hippie California vibes. He's like, yeah, I think you'd make a great single mother, just like, it's just so random. I don't know, man. I'm kind of just going, I'm not really giving you any time to respond to any of this, but I don't know. Off of what I said, how are you feeling so far?
Yeah, well, so I rewatched it last night, and actually, to my surprise, I liked it more than I remember watching it the first time. So let's fucking go. No, I'm just having said that, though, like, I definitely understand that Wes Anderson films are not going to be appealing to, I don't know, most people probably. I think it's probably like a niche vibe. Yeah. I do. It was interesting. The first time I watched it, which again was like probably 15 years ago, I did think that the pacing wasn't good. And this time around, I don't know if it's maybe because I'm older and I move at a slower pace myself, I wasn't as bothered by the pacing. But I'm curious, just going back to, so you hated it. How did it compare to Rushmore? Did you think it was better or about the same? Do you hate it for about the same reasons?
Yeah, I don't know. When I use the word hate, I'm like, I'm not a fan. I'm just not a fan.
Fair.
If someone made me watch it again, You know, it really depend how much I liked them or was interested. But yeah, I mean, I haven't watched Rushmore in years. I just remember like Bill Murray being in that too, and I forgot what, but also being a selfish character in that too. I kind of remember feeling similar, but I couldn't really quote too much about Rushmore to really like, you know, give a fair assessment on that, I guess I would say, because I probably haven't seen Rushmore in at least 15 to 20 years.
So was your expectations going into this, did you kind of read this as more of like a quirky drama instead of like a comedic film? The reason why I asked that is because I do recall that another film, if I'm correct, right, the kind of absurdist comedic film Hot Rod, right? I remember watching that in college with you, and you were a pretty big fan of that movie, right? And there was just a lot of ridiculous shit that happened that, you know, a lot of people didn't make sense like they would exist in real life. Not that obviously this has its own unique quirky Wes Anderson comedic spin, but there was some overlap I felt with some of the absurdist, unrealistic characters. But it didn't bother you in Hot Rod as much because maybe you went in that just taking it more as a comedic absurdist film, whereas this you thought was supposed to be kind of a hybrid of comedy and drama.
Well, here's the thing about Hot Rod. Hot Rod, when I first saw it, I saw it in theaters by my house literally the summer before I went to college. And it was like a free screening. I had no expectations. The only thing I knew was Andy Samberg was in it from Saturday Night Live. I knew nothing about it. And I went and saw it, my expectations were literally zero because I had heard nothing about it. And I saw it in theaters, and I was like, wow, absurdly funny, soundtrack's banging. There was still some characters, though, that seemed like they could actually be real people. Some of them, obviously not as much. You know, like the main character, Andy Samberg's, is just... But having said that, I've met a lot of people, you know, who are very delusional. I guess for me, the difference is Wes Anderson movies seem held in a much higher regard. You know what I mean? Like, Wes Anderson movies are always... He has, like, star-studded casts consistently of, like, people who want to work with him, who are super into it. And I thought they were trying to be a comedy. It's just not much of the jokes were really, like, hitting for me.
Okay.
The only thing I really found funny was, like, how absurd the action sequences are, where they were just making, like, a mockery of shooting and stuff. To me, it was just more like Bill Murray's character's brutal.
Yeah.
And by the end of the film, he kind of realizes more about his life at the cost of Owen Wilson's life. He finds out more about his life. It seemed like all he really wanted is just matter and have a legacy. That's really all he cared about, you know? And Rod just wanted to be not a superhero, but he wanted to be a stuntman, you know? And the woman who wrote Hot Rod's actually, I believe, Pam Brady, who's one of the writers for South Park. So it's just like very different crowd they're going for here. It seems like Wes movies, they pride themselves on the quirkiness and the costume choices and the camera work and the color. It seems more like a film versus Hot Rod comes off as more of let's have fun, it's a movie. You know?
I see. So you think the problem is that there's elements of Wes Anderson films that try to take itself too seriously, and then therefore you're like, okay, now this comedic absurdist stuff doesn't really flow with this other element that you're adding on.
I guess. I mean, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, because, like, one part, I'm just now thinking also back to Hot Rod and, like, the comparison there. Yeah. Like, a couple elements that seem similar in terms of the ridiculousness is, I know one of the main premises of Hot Rod, right, is that he's trying to raise money for is it his stepdad or is his dad? The guy's heart surgery so that he can beat him up later at the end of the movie. And then that's kind of also, in my mind, similar to this guy who's supposed to be an animal researcher, whatever, nature guy, and now he wants to go blow up a rare shark because it ate his friend. Also weird, wacky.
Yeah, it's just the way it's presented is Rod comes in and is fighting his dad. Andy Samberg's character is coming in fighting his dad or his stepdad immediately, and you know they're playing the band Europe. It's just very off top. It's not slapstick, but it's very absurd and has slapstick tendencies. Versus Wes Anderson's a lot more quote unquote, I'm trying to be subtle. But it's just like his style of humor just doesn't really hit with me. You know, it's a lot more high class type humor. You know, it's like, oh, it just reminds me of me and Mike always talk about Archer. There's this one episode where it's like, oh, won't you come to my elegant dinner party? Again, you know, Hot Rod versus that, which to me couldn't have picked a more vastly different movie. Wes Anderson probably shooting that on film. You know what I mean? The way they shot it's a lot more like we're making a film. Set design, star-studded cast, the way that they're choosing overall aesthetic color choices of the film, because I feel like that's definitely something he takes into account when he's making a movie. All the little intricate details. From a filmmaker, it's shot beautifully. There was some interesting cuts you don't see that other people do as often that I thought was cool. The production of it looks like a cool film. As far as the story, it's way too niche for me to care. Don't get me wrong, Andy Samberg and Hot Rod is a very niche type thing too, but it feels like a modern take on an 80s movie. Yeah, we gotta raise money for this various cause by doing something absurd and like beating the bad guy or whatever, blah blah blah. That versus having to deal with the train wreck that's Bill Murray's character is different than the train wreck that's Rod's character, who's, you know, doing a Footloose reference in the woods, dancing the flash dance and doing all this other stuff. A little bit different than random guy on a boat with the guitar playing a random David Bowie song in Portuguese.
Speaking of Bill Murray's character, that was one of the notes I took. Is I actually thought the character of Steve Zissou seemed like a more dark and disturbed character.
Yeah.
Which I did think was interesting. I liked that vibe. Yeah, I said he seemed a little bit twisted for a quirky Wes Anderson film. Some of the comedic moments that I liked was Bob, the Bond stooge, and about how
Bond stooge.
Yeah, he got kidnapped from the pirates, and he's like, wow, he really like stuck his neck out for a Bond stooge or something like that.
Yeah, right.
That shtick with him. In that fight, how all the stuff happens, those unpaid interns, and the one guy gets wounded. The one intern, I like that. It's just shit. Just of course, it happens to the unpaid intern. You know, I kind of that dark.
Well, fun fact: the unpaid intern went on to do great things. I don't know if you know about that, but the unpaid intern in Life Aquatic went on to be on the hit television show Criminal Minds, where he actually plays the savant-ish character. He's one of those characters where there's always those types of characters in some of these cop shows where it's like, yeah, I really can identify with the killer and stuff like that, but having said that, I have a lot of mental health issues I'm dealing with. That's kind of his character in that show. So it's funny because I'm like, wait, him? And the second I saw him, I knew that he was going to have a bigger role at some point. The second I saw him at the beginning. Certain times when you see older movies and you see certain actors or actresses who went on to bigger things, you see them like, oh, they're probably going to talk at some point because they ended up becoming relevant. It doesn't always happen, but it does happen sometimes. So when I saw him, I was like, yeah, I'm sure they stuck him somewhere. Yeah, no, like I said, Bill Murray's character is an asshole. You know, they established that pretty early. I kind of thought he was dark to begin with because this guy's like, yeah, it could be my dad. He's like, okay, cool. And he's kind of remotely into it, but not really. And then he's like, oh, by the way, I have $275,000. Like, son, oh yeah, I love you now, you know. Even his son was hooking up with the pregnant reporter. And his first thought was like, dude, you heard me say I have dibs. And I guess to him that was the joke, you know, and I'm like, okay. That's the one thing I remember about Rushmore, too, is Bill Murray's character was just, like, selfish in that, too. And then again, I just wasn't a huge fan of the character they had Willem Dafoe playing. It just seemed underutilized, and they made him very wimpy. And the roles I like from him are much stronger roles, such as Boondock Saints classic, obviously Green Goblin. I get people have range and stuff. It's just I felt they could have utilized him a little bit more. Bill Murray's character, I'm not as mad at it because he's playing the lead. The only other character I really like, Jeff Goldblum. That's about it. You know, he's in an unhappy marriage. All the people in the crew idolize Bill Murray's character, but he just takes everyone for granted. He takes everything for granted. It's just all about him, blah, blah, blah. And then towards the end, you wonder if him picking that kid up on his shoulders, is that kid the child of the reporter? Because she had the baby during this filming, so I thought it was a different child.
Oh, maybe. I thought it was, didn't Willem Dafoe's character have a kid? He gave him at the early in the beginning, he gave him that. Oh,
that is true. Yeah,
fish or whatever. I was thinking it might have been him.
Yeah, no, it probably was him. I guess it kind of him picking up the kid and having that moment about the shark remembering him is kind of symbolic of maybe now he's more open to being a team player. I guess is kind of how I took it most of the movie he's doing stuff that's very selfish, and then everyone else is watching the film, which is all about him, and he's not watching the film because the film isn't really as important to him as he thought it would be. You know, he's outside, the film ends, the kid comes through immediately. I feel like him in the beginning of the movie, he probably wouldn't have put out that cigarette. The kid shows up, he puts out the cigarette immediately, puts him on his shoulders, and then just like keeps it moving. And then they have that very happy-go-lucky end of the stuff. I took it as him kind of turning a corner towards becoming a decent human being. You know, it's kind of, or attempting to become a decent human being. But yeah, no, I really don't think I could watch it again. I don't think I could do it.
And yeah, and to be fair, I felt the exact same way the first time I saw it. And also, interesting thing that you brought up, felt the exact same way originally. I didn't think that Ned, who's the son, or not son, I guess, Owen Wilson's character. Yeah. I didn't think that Ned's death originally, I didn't think it fit the vibe of the movie. It did kind of feel like it was out of nowhere. Like, oh, here's this quirky kind of comedy, and then you kill off, you know, one of the main characters. But now, I guess, the way that I look at that differently is that it's just sometimes life, you know, happens. It's just random bad shit happens. And I guess that was also kind of the turning point. Now, you know, watching it again, I think what sort of redirects Bill Murray to kind of a different path, you know. Right. And it's interesting, too, that line you said earlier in your review about the, I wonder if he remembers me, like that was the one thing that stuck out. When we did our part 1, and I said, I felt like there was a scene that there's a reason why a lot of people love this movie, and I didn't know if it was fully earned. That was the scene I was talking to when he says, I wonder if he remembers me. But now, looking in hindsight, I don't know that it was unearned in my initial analysis of it. I think that it does kind of go through the whole building of, here's a guy who's past his prime, and he's kind of fixated on his legacy, and he thinks that his legacy's ruined. And so now at this kind of like climax of the movie, I guess it kind of fits that he's saying, oh, I wonder if he remembers me, you know, because it's about being that remembrance kind of thing.
Right. And you also see his growth as a person too after Owen Wilson dies, where that woman who's writing the report about him, who he's so worried about A, getting the cover, but B, also being portrayed in a positive light. He reads her notes earlier on and just totally is like, how could you say this type stuff, blah, 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 just like very upset at her notes. And then later on at the end, when she sends him the draft and he reads it, and he's like, yeah, I was upset, but I did say those things, so, you know, I'm fine with it, blah, blah, blah. And then he ended up getting the cover. And him kind of removing himself from being Steve Zissou, the like figure that people grew up, because she said she grew up looking up to him. Same with Ned, blah, blah, blah. Removing himself from being that person, from just being who he is in his current situation. Even him and his wife seem to be getting along a little bit better towards the end of the film too. Yeah. You know.
I do think that if you didn't like this one, the only one that you might be somewhat okay with is maybe the Royal Tenenbaums, because I think that is a little bit more accessible. Like, it's still got all of the, you know, you still know you're watching a Wes Anderson film, but I think it's like the least like quirky, weird of the whole bunch. But I would say that this one was probably better than a lot of his other ones, so there's probably no hope for the rest of his catalog.
Yeah, I would say like I'd probably watch Royal Tenenbaums, because like when I mentioned to one or two people that we did this list, they were like, oh yeah, you should watch Royal Tenenbaums. I'm like, well, I already said on the pod I'm watching Life Aquatic, so that's what we're doing. But yeah, and I might need to start having people give me their list and be like, so where can I stream this on the list too, you know, because spending $4 to watch a Wes Anderson film was very painful. You know, out of principle. Sure. You know, like I said, I can tell he knows what he's doing. He can make a good film aesthetically. Set design was cool. The matching costumes was a little weird. The custom Adidas they had were sick, though. Those were cool. But besides that, I don't know. You said it's a quirky comedy. I didn't laugh. You know what I mean? There wasn't like any laughs for me. It's just, for me, it was just brutal characters. I guess I'm not the target demo. If this is a quirky comedy, I just don't know where the jokes are. There just wasn't a lot of jokes. Like, the only parts I found funny were their gun violence scenes that were blatantly satire.
Yeah.
Jeff Goldblum had some pretty funny lines, but besides that,
Yeah.
I was not a lot of stuff I found that funny, personally.
Yeah.
Not my normal stick of humor, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I do have a little bit of a weird sense of humor, too. Like, I liked that when you were talking about Owen Wilson's character, where he said, you're going to be a great single mother, and then the line that he followed it up with was, but you're both going to be really disadvantaged. Like,
that was like
I thought that was pretty funny.
No, that got me a little bit.
Yeah. He's trying to be like optimistic and positive, but then acknowledging like the realities of like a single.
Yeah, he's like, I'm a realist though. Yeah.
Just a few little lines like that I liked, and then some of the absurdist action sequences, or like I mentioned before, the intern getting wounded.
Yeah, the intern getting like fucking macheted was pretty funny. Yeah. No.
And then again, everything with Bob the Bond stooge, the company Bond stooge or whatever.
Yeah, that whole thing was just ridiculous. It didn't really even make sense. And I don't know, like I said, Jeff Goldblum character I found funny because they're hating on him the whole time, and he's just like blatantly over here succeeding at everything that Steve Zissou, Bill Murray's character, is doing, plus some. And even when like shit goes bad for him, it still goes better. Because Bill Murray's character, when they rescue him, is like, oh, well, I saw your boat went down. And he's like, oh, yeah, it was crazy insured. I'm actually probably going to make more than what it was worth just because of how crazy insured it was. So just everything's coming out flower for this guy. Bill Murray uses much harsher language, which I'm not going to repeat the language he said just because I'm not trying to get canceled by proxy over here. He made 2 or 3 jokes about Jeff Goldblum's character being a little gay. And at the end, you know, after saving Jeff Goldblum, and Jeff Goldblum's talking to his ex-wife, Bill Murray's current wife, and it's like, hey, can you go powder your nose? I want to talk to my wife real quick. And Jeff Goldblum pulls him to the side. He's like, just randomly, he's like, you know, we were never, both of us were neither good husbands or good spouses, were we? Me, because I'm a little bit gay, and you, because it just doesn't really say why he was. You know, I was just like, it was just such like a, why is this here? You know what I mean? Like, why did this make the cut? Very quirky, but just not my quirk. Yeah. You know? That's fair. Like, I'd watch other Wes Anderson movies, you know, if I'm forced to, but I'm not a big fan of this one. Like I said, knowing my luck, I'm gonna find the love of my life, and they're gonna be like all about Wes Anderson. I'm gonna be fucked. Yeah. But we'll see.
It's definitely not for, like I said, I'm going to say everyone. I would say for most people.
Yeah, definitely not for most. It's a very specific niche. And every year in Halloween, you know, especially when I lived in Chicago, I'd see people dressed up as Steve Zissou's Team Zissou type stuff a lot. You know, those light blue suits with the hats and blah, blah, blah. So I guess it's kind of light blue tealish, you know, with the hat or whatever. And I mean, hey, more power to you. I don't even know if I should quote unquote rate it, because of the fact that I've been rating these. I'd probably give it a 6. In terms of, you know, Jesse aka Schway watchability, for me it's like a 3. You know, in terms of,
I was gonna say, I'm like, 6 is pretty high considering the review you just gave.
I mean, like, it's just one of those things where I can appreciate the fact that it's a well-made film, but if it's supposed to be a comedy, I wasn't laughing. You know, it wasn't anything that I found that interesting. It's not something I would go out to. So far, it's of the 4 movies I've done for this. This is movie number 4 I've watched for the pod. It's been my least favorite.
Oh, well, good. That was my goal when I was drafting up the list.
To make me suffer, yeah.
So.
That was too funny. I literally knew you were going to make this list. I knew it. I was hoping you didn't, but I had a feeling. Considering how long it had been since we actually had consistent conversations going on. The one joke we always had in college was about Wes Anderson. Yeah, we both do the head thing too immediately. We both, like, that's what I was saying. I knew it was happening. I was hoping for something else. At some point, if we get a episode 2 with you in here, we'll have to have your non-Wes Anderson, no Wes Anderson allowed list. You know.
Like I said, it's going to be all like the top 10 longest films ever made.
Yeah, right.
Wasn't there like a movie called Sleep or something where it's just like an 8-hour film of a guy sleeping?
I would not know. It's
like weird experimental shit.
For a second, I thought you were going to really fuck with me and put like Birth of a Nation on there, because that movie's fucking long as shit and super racist.
Yeah.
It's like, because you said longest films, I'm like, that one would be fucking. I've only seen clips for various classes I was in, but that would be brutal.
Yeah.
I don't know. Any other closing thoughts or questions about Life Aquatic for me while we're here?
Yeah, how early into watching it did you decide that you were not going to like this film?
So it's not that I'm going to be honest, I wasn't feeling it off jump. Like, since the beginning,
sure.
like, I wasn't feeling it. Like, and I was trying to move my bias away.
Yeah.
But, man, he's a very unlikable character. And don't get me wrong, like, I like Seinfeld, so there's unlikable characters in there, too. But they would at least have qualities to me that would be funny. That was kind of my thing, is once Owen Wilson got involved and I could sense his vibe, I'm like, yeah, I can tell this isn't going to be for me. So, like, pretty early on, I kept hoping that it would change. To be honest, certain stuff, contrary to belief, certain movies, I'm a bit of a softie on certain stuff. So, like, when he said, I wonder if I'll be remembered, I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's why it has universal appeal there, or like it resonates with people. And then also, he did a really good job delivering that line too. Like, you sometimes forget, like, oh yeah, Bill Murray can act too. Like, because he's normally not in super serious films, but that line, it did almost feel like it was separate from the rest of this quirky thing. It like all of a sudden got really real.
That's
in that
the best part of the entire movie is that one line. But having said that, I'm not willing to watch 2 hours to get to that one line.
You can watch it on YouTube or something.
Yeah, right. That one line was great, don't get me wrong. And there's a couple little things in there. And like I said, set design was great. You know, that's why when I said 6, it's like I'm trying to give points to the fact that it's well shot.
Yeah.
You can tell it's directed pretty well and all this stuff. It's just the script's not for me, the story's not for me. I don't. You calling it a quirky comedy, it's quirky. I didn't laugh though. You know, like I'm a Trey Parker kid, you know, it's just not my steez.
Yeah. He knows what he's doing, you just don't like what he's doing.
Yes. No, I have all the respect in the world for Wes Anderson. I can tell he's really good at his craft. Obviously, he found a niche that works for him. There's people who like it. It's not for me. You know, would I tell Wes Anderson to go fuck himself? No. Well, jokingly I might, but no. He did a pretty good job. It's just not for me. It's not my shtick. I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it. If someone asked me, I wouldn't suggest it. And people would laugh at me and think I'm crazy. I enjoyed Bloodsport like 100 times more than that. And Bloodsport's not shot as well.
Yeah.
The set design's not as good. It's not as thoughtfully put together as that movie. You can tell that Wes puts a lot of time into making these movies how he wants. He has a very specific vision that he's going for, that he wants to do. And that's valid, and I respect it. And someone got mad at me for saying I'd watch Bloodsport over Paid in Full 2, which we did for episode 3, which please don't yell at me for that. It's just one of those things where certain movies are easier for me to digest. It's a lot easier to watch Rob Van Dam, the wrestler. Yeah, I don't know if you knew that, Adam. There's a wrestler named Rob Van Dam, and he's not related to Jean-Claude Van Damme at all. He just stole the gimmick.
Okay.
Jean-Claude just fighting people. It's one of those things where you don't have to pay attention to little quirky details and stuff. It's very face value. You know what I mean?
And that's great. I mean, movies are also about escaping. Even though I actually, like I said, surprising myself, because I don't remember liking this film when I first saw it, but I actually surprisingly dug it. However, I also thoroughly enjoyed all of the numerous times you and I watched Commando in college. Like that was, and that's like a same in line with Bloodsport. It's just like a ridiculous, like you turn your mind off. But that's great too. You know, it's so absurd that it's like funny at times. You know, this man Arnold's literally feeding a deer in the woods with his daughter out of nowhere. Like no one fucking does that. Yeah. And it's just, oh, this is the intro scene. So yeah, no, we're getting off topic, but yeah, it's just, I mean, obviously way vastly different movies, but it's just not, you know, and I like, don't make me go on my rant about Chinatown, because I love, you know, I like movies that are not just action movies and stuff too. The story wasn't for me. That one line hit. He did a great job. You know, R.I.P. that dog Cody. I felt bad for him. Which, by the way, them randomly throwing in that scene where Jeff Goldblum hits the dog with a piece of paper. I'm just like, yeah, I didn't understand.
I'm like,
I think that they were just trying to insert like, oh, this guy's supposed to be a dick. You know, that was, I guess,
a dick and a control freak type vibes.
Like the line when you're talking about, he's talking about the insurance like that he's going to get a lot of money off of that. And then another line that again that I did find was funny was when he said, "Oh, of course we're going to have to get a new crew," because before that they show all of those makeshift tombstones that the pirates made because they murdered his entire crew, and he's just thinking about like, oh, I'm just going to make a bunch of money off of what happened. Like,
oh yeah, definitely. And also when they come back on the boat and Jeff Goldblum's like, "Is this my espresso machine? Where'd you get my espresso machine?" And was it the Bond guy's like, forgot what he referred to him as.
The Bond stooge?
Yeah, the Bond stooge is like, "Yeah, we stole it. Get over it." You know, like... Yeah. And at this point, also, it doesn't matter because the ship went down, so he's going to get a new one via the insurance claim.
Right.
And it almost seemed Jeff Goldblum became part of Steve Zissou's crew. At the end, he was kind of with them and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, it's not for me. I can appreciate the work he put in. It's just not for me. Yeah.
Well, that was what I was going for. Because I thought it would
the
be
most
pretty good
not
content.
me movie.
Yeah. Exactly.
I can't wait till there's a movie that I actually like hate that's on here that I can just go off and talk about how fucking terrible it is. You know, one day that will happen. Again, I can't, you know, even though it's not for me, it's just like I can tell it's a well shot, put together movie. It's just the script's not for me.
Do you think, because this is where we talked a little bit in part one and I kind of moved my opinion on it. I'm curious what your thoughts are, just in terms of like Wes Anderson as a whole and like what his aim is. Because before in college, when we used to do the whole like, "Oh, you like Wes Anderson," with the head shake and the way that we inflect our voice, because we were kind of hitting at that. Oh, this is kind of elitist type films that is intentionally made to be pretentious and not accessible by to be like, oh, we're smart, we get this film, blah blah.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, do you still have that perspective? Because I've actually shifted now where I don't know that he's trying to be like elitist, pretentious. I think he could just actually be a quirky guy who's like, this is just you know what, I'm gonna make movies and this is what I like, so I'm just gonna make this.
Yeah, I mean, that's when I was doing that, I was never necessarily making fun of Wes Anderson himself. I'm more. It was the people who watched. Yeah, because I believe that started when we would be in class for various, a little background, guys. Adam and I went to DePaul for digital cinema and took a lot of various cinema classes. And a lot of those classes, they asked people who their favorite movies are. And there'd be so many kids in our classes being like, "Oh, my favorite movie is insert generic Wes Anderson movie." And they'd always bring that up. And it's just one of those things, I don't know, maybe I don't quote unquote get it, but I watched the whole thing and I didn't find it very funny. You know what I mean? There's moments where you're just like, God, again, not every person has to be like a happy, redeeming character, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, man, like, how much longer is in this? I caught myself a couple times moving the cursor down and I'm like, God, there's another 45 minutes. And then Adam called me with like 30 minutes left. "Oh yeah, are you done?" And in my head I'm like, I fucking wish I was done. Like, I have to watch
I've been
this.
You fucking asshole.
Yeah, like I would have watched this again because I spent $4 to watch this. Again, he knows what he's doing. He knows how to make a movie. It's just not, he doesn't know how to make a movie for me that I'm interested in. Like, I'd much rather have been watching that new Penguin series on HBO Max. Sponsor me, HBO Max. No. Yeah, that's pretty much the main notes I have. I have 2 pages worth of notes here, and I kind of just went off. In the future, I should probably say some and give you a second to respond instead of just going off.
You're just passionate in your displeasure of the film.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. If any of you guys have seen the movie and you can explain to me why that one lady's topless all the time, definitely let me know.
Yeah. Or if you could just explain the movie to him, because he just doesn't get it, clearly.
Yeah, right. Oh, I get it. I get it, He went through a life passage. It's just, yeah, I don't know. It was also interesting seeing that the baby being born wearing the Zissou team clothes. I guess I kind of took that as the reporter was super into him when she was younger too. Like, she's like, I had the poster on the wall of you doing that, pointing or whatever. Her having her baby wearing the clothes to me almost signified how she had regained her faith in him. Is kind of how I took it, considering halfway through the movie he came off as an asshole most of the movie. He made a move on her. She was just like, obviously nah. You could tell that she was just not into the dude at all. And then after Owen Wilson's character dies, and he compliments her on the story and kind of accepts who he is, then all of a sudden, you know, now it's like, okay, I believe in you again. It's kind of the vibe I got from her having the kid in that suit, you know. But again, overall, I get it, but I don't, you know.
I don't want it.
The jokes just, again, if that's supposed to be a comedy, I'm missing the comedy. You know, I didn't really laugh too much, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know, you think that's a wrap on episode 4?
Yeah, no, I think that pretty much covers the movie and pretty much covers what I was going for. So yeah.
There you go.
Thank you there.
Well, guys, you know, thank you for listening. Shout out Adam for not only being the guest, but also he's going to be helping me behind the scenes on the podcast too, guys. And hopefully we'll have him on as a guest again with a Wes Anderson free list at some point, you know, hopefully. Knock on wood. I have wood by me so I can knock on it. But Adam, thank you again, and thank you for everybody listening. We'll see you next time on You Haven't Seen What? I don't know, in the future I'll just see how long I can go with that. You know.
We'll just loop it.
We'll just loop it. Wah, 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 wah. And then just like the dubstep drum just comes out of nowhere, you know. Checks out.
All I know is green, but that cabbage.